This video is recorded for students in general statistics in order to provide them with knowledge and skills on how to complete the requirements of phase 2 of the group project. In phase 1, we successfully managed to design and write our research questions as part of the preparation of the survey questionnaire that will be used in the project. And we managed also to successfully upload the research questions on Microsoft Forms in order to distribute the questionnaire online. Now, after collecting the data and receiving the responses and cleaning the responses, the second step is to go through the requirements of phase 2. Therefore, the objective of this phase is to organize the collected data from phase 1 using frequency distribution tables and graphs. These are the 10 research questions that I used in my sample about smoking habits in phase 1. And today we will go through 4 requirements in phase 2. And these are the 4 objectives that we want to achieve in this recorded video. The first objective is to learn how to prepare frequency distribution tables for your qualitative data and graph the frequency distributions of your qualitative data using bar graphs and pie charts. The second objective that I want to achieve in phase 2 is to learn how to use frequency distribution and how to prepare frequency distribution tables for your quantitative data and graph the frequency distributions of your quantitative data using histograms and frequency polygons. The third objective in phase 2 is to learn how to prepare cumulative frequency distribution tables for your quantitative data and graph the cumulative frequency distributions of your quantitative data using ogives. The fourth and the last objective in phase 2 is to learn how to graph at least one dot plot for a quantitative variable and point out to any outlier if the outlier exists. These 4 objectives will be prepared using Microsoft Excel. And this is the data set that was prepared in phase 1 after spreading out the survey questionnaire on Microsoft Form. And these are the responses of 125 respondents who participated in completing the survey questionnaire. If you look to the first column, well, it starts from number 1 all the way to number 125, where each row in this Excel sheet represents the responses of one respondent. Now, the first objective is to prepare frequency distribution tables of qualitative data and their graphs. And as we know, in chapter 1, we learned that qualitative variables are used to collect non-numeric information. Like, for example, the gender is a qualitative variable. The nationality here is also another qualitative variable. Now, to do so, what we have to do is to put the cursor at the top till you see this black arrow and then select the whole column. And then you can use shortcuts or hotkeys, like, for example, Ctrl+C in order to copy the whole column, or right click and then you can choose copy. And then we want to open a new worksheet by clicking on this plus sign. And then we will, put the cursor somewhere here. And then we will hit Ctrl+V or paste the information here. Now, let's rename this sheet, and then we will be working on this qualitative variable nationality. So you can double click or you can right click and then choose rename. So I'm going to say this is the nationality worksheet. Okay. Now, we see here that we've got a data set with the name of nationality where we've got 125 responses from our respondents. This is ungroup data set, and the objective is to convert this ungroup data set into a group data set. Of course, we can write the nationality in the first column and count, but counting is a time-consuming process, especially if you have a large data set. So how can we do that? In Excel, we have a very fantastic, statistical feature that we will use in order to prepare the group data or frequency distribution table. The first thing that we have to do is to select the data set, including the name of the variable nationality. So when I select, I'm going to select all the elements included in this data set, 125, not more, not less. So this is the last element here in this data set Syrian. So I'm gonna be very specific in my selection, guys, and I should be very specific. Then what I need to do is to click on the tab that says insert. Insert what? You're gonna see a very important statistical feature in Excel, which is called pivot table, which is used in order to convert ungroup data set like this into group data set. Now, once you click on this icon here, a new window will appear. And then the first question is going to ask you to select the data. And we've already selected the data, including the name of the variable, nationality. So there is no need to change anything here. In the second option, it asks you, choose where you want the pivot table to be placed. Is it a new worksheet or the existing worksheet? Let's leave the default value and let's produce the pivot table template in a new worksheet and then hit OK. What happens here, a new sheet 2, has been produced, and you will see this is the pivot table format, and this is the shape of the pivot table. Now, if you look here to the right side, you will see the name of the variable nationality, the one that we had in the other sheet. Okay, what I'm gonna do, I need just to click on the name of the variable. Okay, keep clicking, drag it, and put it in this field which says rows. Let's see what happened on the left side. Now, Excel did an excellent job. Excel has examined and scanned the large data set and then sorted out the nationalities starting from Afghanistan, Bahrain, Bangladesh, and so on. Now, I want you, Excel, to be kind enough and count. Tell me how many respondents are from, for example, Afghanistan, how many are from Bahrain, how many from Bangladesh, and so on. I'm gonna again click on the name of the variable nationality, keep clicking, but this time I'm gonna drag it and put it in the values field. See how lovely is Excel. Well, uh, Excel is counting and it's telling me that 2 out of 125 are from Afghanistan, 1 is from Bahrain, and so on. And this is what I'm looking for. So within a few clicks, I managed to convert the ungroup dataset into group dataset. Now I need to copy from sheet 2 and go back to my nationality sheet. Please listen to this carefully. When you copy the observations from here, make sure to select everything with exceptions to this row, because you see here an arrow which includes certain calculations and formulas, and if you copy them they will mess up the work in the other sheet. So I'm gonna just select till the first nationality, Afghanistan. I'm not gonna select the heading row, and then again use hotkeys like Control C, and then I go to the nationality, and then I'm gonna put the cursor anywhere, and then I click Control V, which is pasting the data. And now I'm gonna give a title here. This is the nationality column, and we've got here the frequency. Okay, now what else do we need to do in preparing a frequency distribution table? We learned, guys, how to calculate the relative frequency. So I'm gonna say the relative frequency is represented by RF, or let's write it relative frequency. Okay, what else? We also learned how to calculate the percentage of each category. So let's do that. Now, the relative frequency is the frequency of a particular category, like a nationality, in relation to the total. Now, in chapter 2, we learned how to calculate the relative frequency by dividing the frequency of each category by the total frequencies, and that's what we're gonna do here on Excel. To do so, we have to click on the equal. Whenever you click on the equal sign or equality sign, you are telling Excel to perform a mathematical function. What is the function that I want Excel to perform? Is to divide 2, and then I'm going to select this cell. It's going to say F3, the intersection between column F and row 3, divided by the total 125, and then I'm going to hit enter. Am I going to repeat the same, a process for each nationality? It's going to be time consuming. So what I can do, once I put the formula, I'm going to check the cell and then go to the right, down side, bottom side from the cell till I see this black plus sign. Put the cursor here and drag, and let's see. Oops, I've got, strange things and mistakes. What happened then? Let's, for example, double click on the second value here and see. Now, when I drag, what happened indeed, the blue cell also moved from 2 to 1 to this cell, which is F4. And what happened to the total? Also, it went down to this empty cell, and that's why it's showing me a mistake. So when I want to drag down, I want to do something so that I can, of course, keep the blue cell moving down, dragging down, and at the same time freezing the other cell 125. To do so, we have to now go through something which is called relative and absolute values. Now, double click here again. And now I want to freeze this cell, which is F23. To do so, you need just to use the dollar sign before, put the dollar sign before 23 and put it before F if you want to be in the safe side. And now, let's give it another try. Put the cursor here on the right down corner and drag now and see what we're going to get. Wow, fantastic. So I managed to get the right responses, and these are the right relative frequencies, and the sum of all relative frequencies is equivalent to 1. This is what we explain in chapter 2. Now, if you want to calculate the percentage, how can we do that for a qualitative, data set? We said that we multiply the relative frequency by 100. Okay, so I'm going to put the cursor here, hit equal, and then tell Excel to perform a mathematical function. What is that mathematical function? Choose this cell, G3, hit equal. You will say, oh, this is the relative frequency, it's not the percent. Fine. We'll convert it into percent. First of all, put the cursor here till you see the black plus sign, drag, and then you'll see here a very nice feature in the number tab here. Can you see this percent style? It will convert it to percent. There is no need to multiply by 100, but once I click this button here, it's going to convert it into percent. And not only converting into percent, can you see this sign? For example, it increase the number of decimals. If you want to, round to 1 decimal, 2 decimals, and so on, or the other one can also decrease the number of decimals. So at the end, you are, the decision maker on how many decimals you will have in your, calculations. Now, I am done with my important calculations in this table. Now, you are the artist, guys. You can decide on how you're going to format it. Like, for example, you want to add a border, you want to centralize the observations at the end. It's your choice. If you want to, add a title, and also in the title say that this is table, frequency distribution table for which variable. Like, for example, I'm going to merge and center here and say this is frequency distribution table for which variable for the nationality. Okay, fantastic. Now we are done with the first part, preparing the table. The second part is graphing qualitative data. Now, in order to do so, we have to prepare two graphs. The first one is the bar graph. And in order to prepare the bar graph, we will select the nationalities and the frequencies. And then you will click on this tab that says insert, and then you're going to see here number of important charts. This is the first one, insert column or bar chart. Click on the arrow here and then choose the first one. This is the first one. And now, of course, when you prepare it, once you prepare it, you can also decide on the design and the format Like for example, this is one design. If I want to, for example, show the numbers, like how many of them, 2, 3, said from this particular nationality, you still can do that. So you are again the artist or the decision maker on your format, your design, and other important things. So let's, for example, choose this second one, and you can have it 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional format. For example, if you click on this, the format, and you want to decide, for example, on the colors and all the other things, you can do that, guys, if you wish. Now, these are artistic issues. It's not within, my interest, but you can choose whatever you want to choose. So let's choose, for example, this one, and now you can add a title and then say this is, for example, bar graph for the variable nationality. Okay, fantastic. Now, why do we prepare, the graphs? Because, you'll be able to see things from the top as if you are in a helicopter. So if you look to the bars, the tallest bar is the UEE. That means most of the respondents in my sample are from the UEE, 23 of them. It provides, a very, very important technique to summarize and display the data nicely and neatly so that we can analyze the data and find out where is most of the respondents from, and so on. Now, the second graph they want to prepare also for a qualitative variable is the pie chart. Again, we're going to select the nationalities and also the frequencies, and then you click please on insert, and then you see this circle here. This is to insert a pie chart. So click on the arrow. You can choose if you want it 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional. At the end, again, you are the artist. And of course, I've chosen this one. If I want to, for example, display the percentages and for example the nationalities, you can choose which design fits your work indeed. So at the end, you are, guys, the decision maker on how you're gonna organize or how you're gonna display your work. So let's, for example, choose this one, and now we will say this is our pie chart, and it's a pie chart for the nationality. Pie chart again for the nationality. Okay. Well, by this, we managed to successfully complete the first requirement in phase 2, is to prepare a frequency distribution table for qualitative data and present them graphically using bar graphs and pie charts. The same thing or the same process has to be repeated for each qualitative variable in my data set. Like for example, I've got here the gender, I've got question 4, a question 6, 7, 8, and 10. All of them are on qualitative data. So the same procedure has to be repeated for the other qualitative variables. Now, we will move to the second objective, is to prepare frequency distribution tables for quantitative data and graph the frequency distributions of your quantitative data using histograms and polygons. That means I'm going to go again to the raw data set and choose, for example, a quantitative variable like the age, where quantitative variables are the variables which measure numerical values. So I'm going to again copy the age, Control C, open a new sheet, and then paste the observations here. And then let's rename this sheet, double click here or right click and then choose rename, and let's call this the age variable. Now, I can see that I've got ungroup data set where I have the age and also 125 responses. Similar to what we've done to nationality, the first thing is to select the title of the variable and the elements in the data set. This is the first thing. We want to convert this ungrouped data set into a group data set, and we need to use the same feature, pivot table, by clicking on insert and then pivot table, and the data range is already selected. Where do we want to produce the result? In a new worksheet. So I'm gonna hit OK, and now a new worksheet will appear, and as you see, the title of the variable age here, and what I have to do is to click on the variable name, drag it, and put it in the rows field. Let's have a look. What happened on the right side, Excel is ranking the observations in this data set, indicating that the smallest value is 17 and the largest value is 84. Wow. So Excel did an excellent job. It scanned this data set and ranked the observations from the smallest 17 to the largest 84. Well, I want you, Excel, to be kind enough and count how many respondents in my sample said that their age is 17. How many of them are 18 years old, and so on. So I'm gonna click on the age variable, drag it, but this time put it in the values. Let's see what happened on the right side, on the left side indeed. Well, 17, and then it says 119, and then 18, 342. Wow. Did we have this large number of respondents in my sample? And if you look here, the sum of the respondents is 2,968. I had only 125. From where I've got these numbers, I tell you. If you look to the title of this column B, it says sum of age. That means, suppose that I have 7 respondents in my sample whose age is 17 years old. Excel is using a sum operation, is adding 17 plus 17 plus 17 plus 17 7 times and giving me the sum in this Excel. Well, I don't want you Excel to give me the sum. I want you count. Tell me that there is a total of 7 respondents with age of 17. So to do so, pay attention to this. Go to the right side, and then can you see the values here? It says sum of age and this arrow. Click on the arrow, and then a drop-down menu will appear, and then choose the last option. It's the value field settings, and then a new window will appear where it asks you which operation you want to choose or which calculation. Sum? No, I don't want to sum. I want to count. So choose the count and then click OK, and now let's have a look. Excel is doing a fantastic job. It's counting, like 7 respondents are 17 years old, 19 are respondents are 18 years old, and so on. And the total now is 125, which is the right one. This is converting the ungrouped data set into a group data set, but this is using single value classes. Like, for example, I have only first class those who are 17 years old, second those who are 18. No, I want to have a range, like from 17 to, let's say, 21, and then from 22 and so on. So I want to have classes, class limits, and class boundaries. To do so, put the cursor anywhere here in this table, and then right click till you see the drop down menu, and then you're going to see 2 options, group and ungroup. So choose this one, group. I want to group this data set, and then a new window will appear. Starting at, this is the smallest value, 17 years old, and ending at 84, this is the largest value. And then it asks you by which class width you want to increase it. Do you want to have a class width of 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever? So let's try 5. At the end, you are the researcher. You are the one who's going to decide on your class width. Okay, and then I'm going to hit OK. Well, I can see now I have 84 respondents from the age of 17 to 21, 20 are from the age of 22 to 26, and so on. I can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 classes, and it's recommended to reduce the number of classes so that I can get clear picture on the distribution spread of observations in data sets. So why don't we right click again and then say we want to group, but we want to change the class width, increase the class width, make it so that I can, once I increase the class width, then the number of classes will decrease. So I'm going to make it 10, and now let's see. Yeah, at least now I have 104 are from 17 years old to 26, and so on. So this is fair enough. So again, I want to copy the information from the pivot table form here and put it in the A sheet. Please make sure you select, and your selection does not include the first row because it includes certain computations. Click on Control C, and then I go to the age, and then I put the observations here, and I'm going to say Control V, and this is the age, or this is the age, and we've got here the frequency. Fantastic. Now, I want to do a few things because this is a quantitative, data set. So I'm gonna here say, why don't we put the lower limit, and then in the next column the upper limit. Okay, and then what else? We wanna also calculate the relative frequency. We wanna also calculate the percentage. I want to also calculate the class midpoint. So let's see how can we do these calculations together. Okay, now of course I want to write now the lower limits. Well, in order to write them, I just need to type them. So the lower limit of the first class is 17, second class 27, 37, 47, 57, 77. Okay, now let's type the upper limits. We have 26, 36, 46, then we have 56, 66, 86. That's it. Now the relative frequency, so let me just the first 26. Okay, relative frequency is similar to what we've done when we calculated for qualitative data set. We divide the frequency by the total, so I'm gonna hit equal, tell Excel to perform a mathematical function. What is the function? Divide the frequency divided by the total, but pay attention, 125, I should freeze, use the $sign in order to freeze the total, and then hit enter, and I'll put the cursor here, and then until I see the black plus sign on the right bottom corner, and then drag. Okay, fantastic. These are the relative frequencies. Now I want to calculate the percent. How do we calculate the percent? I'm going to hit equal, perform a mathematical function, copy the relative frequency, and hit enter. And then guess what? Put the cursor here till I see black sign, drag, and now convert this into percent by clicking on the percent style button. And of course I can have one decimal. Now the class midpoints, how do we calculate them? We said that we add the lower limit plus upper limit, I divide them by 2. So I'm gonna hit equal, perform a mathematical function. What is the function? I open parentheses, and then the lower limit 17 plus the upper limit is 26, close my parentheses, divide by 2, and then the midpoint of the first class 21.5. If I want to duplicate the same formula for the other classes, put the cursor here, drag, and then go down. Now the class midpoint of 21.5 means that the value in the middle between 17 and 26, it's 21.5, which is the middle value in the middle of a particular class. Now I am done with the calculations here. Now you are the artist. You can, for example, adjust the alignment, like put them in the center. If you want to add a border, you can do so. If you want to, add a title, you can do so. At the end, you are the artist. Now, this is the first requirement: is for quantitative data sets, like converting the ungroup data set into a group data set. Now, how do we graph, a quantitative data? We use histograms or frequency polygons. In histograms, we put the class limits on the horizontal axis and the frequencies on the vertical axis, and we can do that. Well, what I'm gonna do, I will select now the first two columns, the class limits and the frequencies, and then I'm gonna hit insert, and then it's this insert column or bar chart, and then choose the same chart that I choose when I wanted to graph the bar chart. Okay, you can look at this, you'll say, oh, this looks like a histogram. This looks like a bar graph, not a histogram, because we know that in a histogram the graphs are drawn next to each other, right? Oh, okay, fantastic. We can do that. Well, we see that the first class is those who are from 17 years old to 26, and we've got a total of 104 respondents. But now, in order to convert the bar graph into histogram, it's very easy. What you have to do is to to put the cursor here anywhere, and then you just need to right click and then choose the last option. You'll see a drop down menu, choose format data series. Click on this, and then a comment list will appear on your right side. So you will see this tab here that says gap width. This is the current gap width. If I want to increase the gap width, look what happens. The bar's size is getting smaller. No, I want to do the opposite. I want to reduce the gap width between the bars. So I'm gonna just take this to the other side, reduce it, or you can just put it here and make 0. And let's see, the bars now are drawn next to each other. And this is my histogram. Now, of course, I can rename it. So I'm gonna say this is histogram for the variable of age. Now, again, it is very important because the histogram tells us that most of the respondents are in my sample are from 17 to 26 years old, most of the smokers, and this is a very interesting observation. Now, if I ask you about the skewness of the histogram, it is obvious that this histogram is skewed to the right side, where, of course, definitely those the smoking tendency may disappear with the increase in age of human beings. Like, for example, if you look those who are above let's say 36, the number goes down to 4, 5, and 1. So this is the first graph for my quantitative data set. Now, the second graph is the frequency polygon. Frequency polygon is a graph where we plot on the horizontal axis the class midpoints, and on the vertical axis we present the frequencies, or could be relative frequencies or percentages depending on the question. So what I'm going to do, I will select the frequencies and then I click on the tab that says insert, and then you see this second one, it says insert line or area chart. Click on the arrow and then choose the first one. Of course, you want to have it 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional. It's up to you guys. Now if you look to this graph here, the frequency polygon, we agreed that okay, we have the frequencies on the vertical axis, and of course if I want to mention them, I can be specific and give the values, like the frequency here is 104 and so on. Here is 10. Now on the vertical axis we agreed that we should have the class midpoints, and instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I should have these class midpoints. To do that, you see this tab here that says select data in the design. So select data, and then let's move it a little bit, and then it says horizontal axis labels. I want to edit, and instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I'm going to hit edit, and now select these new values, the midpoints, and let's have a look what happened to the horizontal axis. They've changed. Hit OK, and then hit OK, and this is the right frequency polygon. So I'm going to say this is my polygon for which variable? For the age variable. Okay, fantastic. So what we've done, guys, we managed to complete now the second requirement in phase 2. Prepare frequency distribution tables for quantitative data and graph the histograms and polygons. Now, the third requirement is connected with the second. We want to prepare cumulative frequency distribution tables for quantitative data also, and graph them using ogives. So this variable is a quantitative variable, so we'll continue our work on the same variable. Okay, what we're gonna do, guys, we will now work on the same variable, but prepare a cumulative frequency distribution table. Now let's copy these two columns that says the lower limit and upper limit. So I'm gonna copy them, Control C, and then put them here, Control V. Okay. Now, what I want to do, guys, with you is to calculate the lower boundary, Okay. And we want to also learn how can we calculate the upper boundary, Okay. Well, if you remember when we discussed frequency distribution tables of quantitative variables and we talked about them, we said that the lower boundary can be easily found from the lower limit by subtracting the lower limit minus 0.5 and the upper boundary basically the upper limit plus 0.5. We still can do that. So I'm going to put the cursor here, hit equal, and then I click on 17 here, minus 0.5, and then hit enter. Then I'm going to put the cursor here and drag. Okay, fantastic. How about the upper boundary in the same pattern? So I'm going to hit equal and then click on the upper limit plus 0.5 and then I'm going to get 26.5 as the upper boundary of the first class. Put the cursor here and drag. Okay, now I'm trying in this table down to prepare a cumulative frequency distribution table which lists all the values that fall below the upper boundary of each class. And we know that in cumulative frequency distribution tables, the upper limit of the first class and upper boundary of the first class becomes the the lower limit of the first class or lower boundary of the first class becomes the lower boundary of all the other classes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just duplicate 17 here because this is the lower limit of the first class and it becomes the lower limit of all the other classes. Now I want to prepare a column where I calculate the cumulative frequency. Let's call it CF, cumulative frequency. It lists the frequencies that fall below the upper boundary of each class. So I'm going to here hit equal and then choose the frequency of the first class, which is fine because this is the first class. Now, the second class, if I want to find the cumulative frequency, I should add 104 plus 10. So what I'm going to do, I will use the sum operation. Hit equal and then write SUM, double click on the sum operation and then add the frequencies of the first two classes. How about the cumulative frequency of the third class? Same pattern, sum, and then I will add the frequencies of the first three classes. How about the fourth class? I'm gonna do the same thing, sum, and then add the frequency of the first four classes, and then the fifth class, I'm gonna hit sum, and again, what I'm gonna do, I will add, the frequency of the first five classes, and the last class, of course, is the sixth class. I'm gonna hit equal and then sum, and then I add the frequencies of all the classes, and it should be 125. Now, if we want to calculate the cumulative relative frequency, CRF, cumulative relative frequency, we should divide the cumulative frequency of each class by the total frequencies. That means I should hit equal, tell Excel to perform a mathematical function, 104 divided by 125 and enter. And then let's put the cursor here and drag, and this is the column that represents the cumulative relative frequencies. How about the cumulative percentages? So I'm going to say P, cumulative percentage. So we said that we multiply the cumulative relative frequency by 100. So I'm going to just put the cumulative relative frequency in this column, hit equal, and then put it here, and then put the cursor till I see the black plus sign, drag. And now I will convert this into percentage by clicking on the percent style button. And of course, you can decide on how many decimals. These are the calculations that I need to prepare in a table that includes the cumulative frequency distributions. Now, how do we graph a cumulative frequency distributions? We should use the graph of the ogive, and the ogive is prepared to present the cumulative frequencies. So I need to select the cumulative frequencies, which represent the vertical axis, and we plot on the horizontal axis the upper boundaries. So I've already selected the cumulative frequencies. I need to click on the tab that says insert and then choose to insert a line, click on the arrow and then choose the first graph. This is the graph of the ogive, and as you see on the horizontal axis, you see on the vertical axis you'll be able to see the cumulative frequency starting from 104, 114, 118, and so on. But we should have on the horizontal axis the upper boundaries. Of course, you can choose any design that you want to choose. And now let's adjust the values on the horizontal axis by clicking on select data. And I want to change 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by clicking edit. And now I will choose the upper boundaries, and these are the upper boundaries. Hit OK and hit OK. And now I can rename this and call it ogive for which variable? For the variable age. Okay, fantastic. So by this, I managed to successfully complete the third requirement of phase 2 of the project. We still have one requirement, is to graph at least one dot plot for a quantitative variable and point out to any outliers if they exist in the data set. Okay, now to do so, again, we will choose one quantitative variable. Before I do it, guys, I want to draw your attention that this a process that has been used on the variable of age should be repeated for each of the quantitative variables in my data set. But now I'm going to do the last requirement in phase 2 is to prepare at least one dot plot and point out to outliers. Okay, question 2 is on a quantitative variable. I think they were asked a question, how many times do you smoke on a day, I think. So let's copy it. It's a quantitative and it's discrete. So we're gonna copy it. Question 2, I add a new worksheet, and then I'm gonna paste the observations here, rename this, and then we call this Q2. By the way, you can get rid of these sheets, sheet 4 and 2, because we already copied the data, so we don't need them anymore. So I can delete it. I don't need this sheet. I can delete sheet 2 as well. I don't need sheet 2. Now, let me go to Q2. Q2 is how many or how often do you smoke in a day, I think. Now, this is ungroup data set. So what I have to do, I want to convert it into a group data set using the pivot table. So first thing is to select the observations with the name of the variable, and then click on insert, pivot table. Data is already selected. I want to produce it in a new worksheet. Hit OK. And this is the title of the variable question 2. Click on question 2, drag it in the rows field. Now it says that what happened indeed, Excel ranked the observations from the smallest to the largest. The smallest value is 1, the largest value is 72. My God, someone said that he or she smokes 72 times in a day. Probably, I wonder if that person is still alive. Anyways, so now this is the first thing. The second thing, I want to click and drag here on the name of the variable, put it in the values. And if you look, we've got a very large number, 1,155, because Excel is adding or using the sum operation. I need to adjust this, and I want Excel to count. How many respondents said that they smoke once a day? How many of them said this? Click on this arrow, see, and then choose the value field settings, and then instead of sum, convert it into count and hit OK. That means 16 respondents said that they smoke once a day. 4 said that they, 4 respondents said that they smoke twice a day. 12 said that they smoke 3 times a day, and so on. Fantastic. This is my single valued data set. Now what I want to do is just to copy without again the title, because it includes certain formulas and it will mess up my work. So I'm gonna say Control C, and then I go to Q2, put the values here, and then Control V. Okay, and this is here the question 2, Q2, and we've got here the frequency. Okay, now what I want to do, guys, is to prepare a dot plot. And in order to prepare a dot plot, I need to select, these two columns. And now click on insert, and then I'm gonna insert a column. Click on this arrow and then choose the first option. Well, let me just do something. What I want to do is to choose only the frequencies. There is no need to choose the question because later on I will edit this. Frequencies, like how many of them said they smoke once, so I need to present them with 16 dots. How many of them said they smoke twice? 4, so that means 4 dots, and so on. It's a dot plot. So click on this, okay, insert column, and then choose the first one. Okay, you'll say, how come this is not a dot plot? This is a bar graph. Yes, but we will convert it now into a dot plot. Well, for example, if you look here, the frequencies are correct. Well, the first one, 16 respondents said that they smoke once, but I need to adjust the values on my horizontal axis because I need to use these, values. So I put the cursor here and then select data and edit the values on the horizontal axis because they start from 1 to 20. We have 20 columns, but here they start from 1, and then someone said that he or she smokes 27 times a day. So I need to edit this and then choose the right values here, hit OK, and now let's see. Still, this is a bar graph. Okay, I want to convert it into a dot plot. Fine. Then you need just to put the cursor on any of the bars. Okay, I put it here. And then guess what? You need to right click and then format data series. You'll see this on the right side. What you have to do is click on this box, that painting box that says, fill and line. Once you click on this, okay, you'll see this fill and border. Then you open the fill. Okay, before I work here, what I need to do is to graph a dot plot. That means I should have a dot saved somewhere on my computer. So if you go to Google anywhere and then you say dots or dot image dot, and then I'm gonna go to the images, and then I will find so many dots. For example, let's choose this and then right click and then save the image on my desktop. This is my dot. Okay, that's what I've done. Fantastic. I have it on my desktop. Now what I will do, I go back to Excel, and then I want to fill the columns with a picture or a texture. So choose this radio button. And then guess what? I want to upload, the dot that I just saved on my desktop. So I'm going to click File and then go to my desktop. And this is the dot. And then I want to insert it. Wow. I've got all the columns now represented with one dot, but this is not what I'm looking for. For example, 16 said that they smoke once in a day. That means I should have 16 dots stacked above each other. Okay, to do so, you see here another option. It says stretch or stack with a scale width, a stack and scale width. Choose the third option. So stack and scale with 1 unit. That means for each value in the frequencies, it will be represented by 1 dot. And if you now look to the first, column, we've got 16 dots. 16 respondents said that they smoke once a day, and this is the right dot plot. So this is how to prepare a dot plot, and then I can say this is my dot plot. Okay, and there is of course obvious one outlier, the one who said that he or she smokes 72 times in a day. This is the third and last requirement in phase 2. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope that the explained contents in this video will make the experience of the project exciting, and you will complete the requirements of phase 2 of your group project successfully. Thank you very much for watching the video.